Yeah, welcome to the Grapplers Academy, episode 36. I think.
Yeah, we should start writing these down so we know where we're up to, really, shouldn't we?
Yeah, normally I check on the YouTube beforehand just to be like, right, yeah, we've got this. It's episode 36 or 35 or... But yeah, I think it's episode 36.
Episode 36, lockdown version 4.0. The year is 2021, I think.
Is it? I thought it was like 2025 and it feels like we've been here for... It's kind of like, do you know, like Red Dwarf? And they're just kind of like cruising through space with like no end in sight.
I was thinking more like the, the hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball Z, except nobody's coming out with any gains.
I'm coming out with some gains. It's kind of like gained weight though. It's not exactly anything positive.
Well, as you know, I've been trying to push my weight up. I managed to successfully hit 101.5 kilos on Saturday night. That being said, though, that was immediately after a takeaway.
Hey, it still counts.
I was counting it. I stepped on the scales and my body weight was 101.5. So,
was you 95 kilos the next morning after going to the toilet?
Yeah, pretty much. 2 coffees later. And it was a curry as well, so that wasn't a pleasant experience in of itself. But yeah, episode 36.
Yeah. We was talking off camera, weren't we, before about sort of like talking about rolling with like blind people, because there's a video floating around again recently, wasn't there, of the blind player sort of grappling with his teammates. And then we sort of got onto the benefits of almost kind of rolling with your eyes closed, as it sort of improves your tactile senses and more your body awareness without having to rely on your sight, really.
I think that's the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu and wrestling and all the grappling sports is once you're hands-on, you're not really looking for what you're trying to go for with your eyes, are you? You're more feeling it, feeling where your partner's weight is. Like, you ain't getting away with doing any striking with your eyes closed. I'm sure Mayweather would probably even be getting clocked plenty of times if he tried putting a blindfold on and doing that. Except if you're Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I was just about to say that. Was it Bloodsport? He's making a tea and then catches the hand straight away.
I realised then what I was saying, and I realised that it was a perfect example of it. So scratch that. So unless you're Jean-Claude Van Damme, it doesn't apply to you. But yeah, grappling sports are so tactile. Everything's like sensitivity, movement, balance, feeling your opponent out. And I reckon you could roll with your eyes closed or a blindfold on or something like that and do a pretty decent job. Oh,
definitely. I think it'd massively improve the skill set as well. Like, because you're going to be more aware to your opponent's balance, your own balance. You're going to have to feel for the openings as well. You're not going to be able to sort of see them and see where everything's going. You're going to have to feel everything out. So I think you'll probably get a good rate of development from rolling blind.
Yeah, and it just makes an even further argument for why the grappling sports are the superior ones to learn, because being blind is a disadvantage. You've taken your sight away. You can still effectively do something to keep yourself safe if you are looking at it from a self-defense point of view.
Definitely.
So there's massive benefits from that as well.
And like in a self-defense point of view as well, there could be occasions where you'll lose your sight in a fight. Like if your eyes get caught and they swell up. If you've got a dirty player who tries to, like in at the end of Bloodsport, blows a thing in your eyes and you can't see. But
or if you get into a street fight with John Jones and he tries to poke your eyes out.
Very true. Very true.
But no, I like it. It's interesting to do with like some of the players you'll have a good laugh with sometimes in the gym, like take away certain advantages or whatever. It's like, I'm not going to use this arm or play around with it that sort of way. So it'd be a really interesting one. And I've never actually done it properly to kind of like blindfold you or try and do the whole roll with your eyes shut. I think the problem with doing that on an open mat is you probably end up going crashing into somebody else. Like, you definitely need to be able to see what's going on when you're in a roll and you've got like a tumbleweed of white belts coming at you, and then you've got to make a quick adjustment.
Even think that you'd have to have you'd probably have to do the Top Gun style rolling where you get the third player off the mat who can sort of almost like shimmy you in the right place.
Yeah, basically just be a referee for it. Or you could just stick yourself in a cage if you've got an MMA cage and then just let the tumbleweed white belts go at each other.
Guess if you do that as well, like you could probably start standing and put like a bell on each other. So you got to like try and find each other through the noise.
I've just got a funny image now in my head of like a snowball of white belts rolling over the mat, just collecting more white belts.
But they're still rolling in that like snowball.
Scene out of Indiana Jones where you've got a couple of blue or purple belts rolling there and this big white belt ball's coming at you.
You're sort of running going, no! But you've not taken your blindfold off and you're running to the wall.
But like, yeah, going back to what you were just saying about the bells, like, that football for blind people is really interesting as well, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
That's amazing.
And you know what? Like, they've got some very skilled players.
Mm.
Like, I've not watched a great deal of it, but the stuff that I've watched from it, they've been some really good players, and like they know. You could argue that their pitch awareness and their spatial awareness is probably better than some sighted players.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd rather watch some high-level, visually impaired football players versus some of the lower league stuff.
True. Yeah. Although I've got to say, when I used to work with some of the lower league teams, doing the pitch side stuff, the matches would be a lot more heated, and there'd be often times where you'd be stepping in between trying to separate the managers from fighting and some of the players from fighting. So and then same side of things, it was all right.
Do you know what, as well, that brings up a really good point about something that I keep seeing pop up on Instagram, is like arguing the legitimacy of ice hockey as a martial art. And kind of hear me where I'm going on this. I've seen a load of videos of people practicing in the hockey gear, grabbing the jerseys and how to throw strikes properly. There was a class of kids doing it in like a ballet studio.
You know what? I can see it, to be fair, because like you're on the skates, you're on a slippy surface, and your balance and your actual center of gravity is completely different, as well as having somebody tugging you and punching you.
How much better would every sport be if it was like ice hockey, where every time there was like a hard foul going in or something like that, you had the two enforcers going at it, like toe to toe, squaring up?
I think it'll be much better if, like, say, something like football did that, because then it'll stop half the soft players from diving every time their ankle gets touched.
The thing that had happened though is you'd have like 10 skinny guys on the pitch who are all just the normal football players, and then you'd have one guy on the pitch who looked like Francis Ngannou, and then Alistair over him on the other side of the team.
I was about to say, you'd see a lot of clubs actually signing professional fighters just to be the enforcer on the team.
I think we should pitch this. This is the thing that makes 2021 the cherry on the icing from last year's shit.
What should we call it? I reckon something like Thunderdome football.
That's not a bad shout. What could you call it?
And when there is like a bit of a fight between two players, the lights go off and the spotlight just goes onto them.
Yeah. And
they got 30-second scrap.
Yes. Yeah, there's got to be a time limit on it, definitely.
And if a player gets knocked out, it's a point to the team that does the knocking out.
No, well, it could just be as simple as they lose that player for the rest of the match. So if you've got a team full of pussies, then you're down to 10 men.
True.
Yeah.
So it's like an elimination as well. Like
here's a more interesting concept. Do the enforcers on each team fight each other, or do the people who are getting into an argument fight each other?
I say people in the argument, because otherwise it just means that the players who all mouth and less action can hide behind the enforcers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If the mouthy ones can't hide behind the enforcers, then they're going to have to face the music.
What are the rules for the fighting as well? Is it MMA style? Is it grappling? Or is it just boxing?
I think we take the hockey style. Like, because once it gets down to the ground, especially with studs on, it can be a bit dangerous. Whereas if it's hockey style, where you just got to one hand on the shirt, the other hand just punching, I think that's...
I'm down for that. We'll try and pitch it to the Premier League.
Because what we could do as well, like they could have to wear MMA gloves for the game.
Yeah.
So then they're not breaking the knuckles.
Well, actually, there's that game in Italy, isn't there? That like medieval football game that they play.
Oh yeah.
What's that called?
I don't know what I know the one you mean, but I can't think of the name. But they've got one in India as well, haven't they? Kabaddi.
Yeah, it's basically just football / MMA.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well done. Well done to us. We've just invented a sport that already exists.
There we go.
But I still want to know what we should call it. Like, put in the comments what you think this sport should be called, and if it's good enough, and we get the go ahead to go with it, we'll
pitch it and name it that.
We'll run it alongside the event that Dan Strauss was talking about doing when we had him on the podcast.
There we go.
Maybe it could be a simultaneous show.
That's it, because you could have because then at the end of the game, both teams could have a grappling match at the end, and that could be like, say it ends like 3-0 or something to one side, but the other one wins more grappling matches, and the points that they get from that equates more than the football match, then they win. So like the scores just sort of like tally up.
The thing is that you could just have a team that was awesome at fighting and then couldn't put anything in the back of the net.
But then if they get like 20 points down,
true.
They've only got 10 matches. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there'd only be like say 10 matches.
I reckon it'd be better as like. Do you reckon it'd be better five a side or like 11 a side?
Maybe go hockey numbers on that again, because we're sort of like borrowing a lot from hockey. Don't hockey have like 7 players?
I think so.
To do a quick Google, we need like what Rogan's got, a Jamie.
Yeah. People should be able to make their applications whether they want to become an intern for the Grapplers Academy. Requirements of basic use of Google.
I've just been putting NFL rather than NHL.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept though. Like if you do it with, I think you could go Sambo style with the uniforms, so that there is definitely something good to grab onto as well.
Now that's a good one. Says they have 23 players, but I think it's like 6 or 7 are active on the pitch, doesn't it?
Right. Okay. To be honest, I've never been a big follower of hockey. I've watched maybe a handful of games in my time.
No, I'm the same. Yeah, it doesn't really say. But I think we're on to something there.
Imagine this like getting some popularity and being like taught in primary school.
That'd be brilliant, that. But what size gloves do the kids wear? Would they wear big boxing gloves?
Yeah, they've got to wear like the 16 ounces, haven't they?
And would it be one gloved hand and one non-gloved hand, like the guy in the UFC one? So otherwise, you can't grab the jersey, can you?
Exactly. See, the rule book's writing itself.
And also, we're going to throw in like an Uchimata. So say like you get it and then you're able to throw them, and they pinned. Is that a win?
I mean, I reckon that means the player's off the pitch, so then that goes down to like the 1-man down sort of rule.
I like it. And you could even like, foot trips are in there. There's no kicking, but foot trips and throws and punches.
Yeah. Yep, I'm down for it. It's basically Team Sambo.
Yeah, with a little bit of football in between.
Yeah, you can forget about that bit. I don't think anybody's really asked about kicking a bag of wind around. Back to a more serious note, though. What we were actually going to talk about before we went off on this massive fucking tangent was surviving white belt, wasn't it?
Yes.
We had a couple of questions come through to us through the week about like what are the most difficult bits about getting through white belt, and somebody wanted to know our thoughts on that, and why there's such a big attrition rate when it gets to blue belt. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I've got to say, like that first year can go, I guess, one of two ways, really. You either get really sort of engulfed by the sport and throw yourself fully into it, or you kind of get sick of getting beat up every week, and then you either sort of, I wouldn't call it toughing it out, but you sort of endure it for however long until you start to get that momentum. What a lot of people like misunderstand is that concept, that whole thing of getting like beat up or beat for the first 12 months or so does a lot for your character and for your actual defense. Like you'll find that you might start off the round, like your training with getting tapped 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times per round. By the end of that 6 months, you might get tapped once or twice.
Yeah.
And because being tapped out has like a bit of a negative connotation to it, like I don't think it does, but some people see it as losing. They don't see the progress in actually losing less. They don't see that as progress. Whereas this kind of like, I need to be beating other people to progress. So it's kind of like not getting caught up in the details of I'm not winning every match. It's actually I'm not getting caught in arm bars as much. I'm not being caught in triangle for however long. My side control escapes much better. Like I've not been choked from my back for a very long time. Like those little things equate to progress.
It's probably more important and like a more elusive idea to get your head around to begin with, because obviously the stuff that you see when you start doing jiu-jitsu is like, oh, I really want to learn how to defend an armbar. It's like, I want to learn how to do a flying triangle. You want to learn the submissions because putting a submission is the fun bit. But in reality, the thing that you probably should be focusing on first in that first 12 months is developing a solid defense game. Like, how many times have you rolled with something that you just know is going to be so difficult to tap? Like, you know, you're going to have to be so on point to be able to get them with something, and it's fucking frustrating. There's nobody more frustrating with than somebody who's difficult to tap or pass the guard. Or even just get anything basic on. And I think that's where most people's priority should be put in that first 12 months, even though that's not what they want to do. They want to learn the subs and learn the flashy stuff. That's not what's going to be the biggest thing that helps you in the long run. If you can keep yourself safe, then you can start working on your attacks then after that. I remember when I first started training, I remember saying to myself, I'm going to go in this week and my goal is not to get tapped or like to this one particular guy who kicks my ass every week. I'm going to try and tap like less than 3 times in the whole evening. And then next week it's going to be, I'm not going to tap once. And then it starts to get to the point where it's like, right, okay, I'm actually going to start getting in with stuff now. And then that's where you see the tables turn, and now you can start going on the offensive with it. But you've got to have a solid defense first. I would say that's where most people probably make the mistake and start to get that burnout because, as you rightly said, they're not seeing the progress in the effective fundamentals of defense. They're just thinking, oh, I'm not getting taps on people who've been training for 5 years and get frustrated with that. It's stupid.
Yeah, and it's the thing as well, like you shouldn't be all like, you might get a tap on someone who's been training a long time, but you shouldn't be marking your progress on like how much you're defeating them or how much you're able to apply the pressure to them. Like, measure your progress against, like we've been saying, are you getting tapped less? Are you able to escape from side control much easier? Can you get out from mount? Did you get tapped? What's your lowest percent escape rate for submission? And can you improve your defense on that?
Yep.
And then use, because there's always going to be someone who starts with you within like a month or either side of your training. Now, for me, they're the training partners where you're going to have a good back and forth and put into practice what you've been learning. And once you're putting that into practice, you can then be like, okay, these are going to be my tough sparring rounds, and you'll have them throughout your whole journey. That they'll be, depending on their training routines, they'll be there for your whole journey of training.
Yeah.
But use them as kind of like almost like your measuring stick of your offensive progress. as opposed to trying to measure your offensive progress against the more experienced players.
There's a couple of unique aspects about being really new in jiu-jitsu as well, particularly in that first 12 months or so. We often talk about being able to roll or taking the opportunity to roll with people better than you, people the same as you, as you've just talked about, and also people who aren't at your same level as well, so people who you're a little bit better than. So, you know, you get into test yourself against those people that are a lot better than you, and it's more of a learning opportunity to see what they're doing, see what they're able to do to you, and what you need to tighten up on, what's getting exposed a lot. Like you just said, I won't reiterate too much, but like testing your people against your peers who you're going to have a tough scrap with, but then also going against the easy guys, where it's your opportunity to like kind of work through things at a slightly slower pace where you're not working as hard. And the problem is, and it's a good thing and a bad thing, when you're a white belt just starting out, you don't really have that batch of people below you that you can do that with. So almost everybody is either at your level or better than you. So it's a really quick learning curve. Like you get dragged up very quickly because your weaknesses are getting exposed a lot, and you get a lot of time in bad positions that you don't want to be in to work your way out of it. And whether you think that's a good thing or not at the time, that's the biggest thing that's going to be helping you. Only when you get a little bit later down the line, it's like, oh, I've not really got very good back escapes. Like, I'm going to try and put myself, I'm going to try and let people get my back so I've got the opportunity to work out of it. The beautiful thing about being not very good at jiu-jitsu is you get loads of time in that position or multiple positions like that. So you're getting exposed to that bad position training that more experienced players have to go out of their way to do. You're getting the benefit of getting put there every single time you roll. It's... And that's the sort of stuff that accelerates you learning a lot quicker than just tapping people with the same sub over and over again that are worse than you. It's like, great, you're good at arm bars, and that's awesome because you can develop a really good arm bar system off the back of that, like we've talked about, but there's going to be a million other things that you need to work on.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like another thing that hinders people, and this is for me, I'd probably say across all belt levels, not just white belt, is treating the training room like the World Championship final. Like you going into the training room and having to win every single round, rather than going into the training room with an objective. Like, so for me, I will go into the training room and I'll have an idea of what I want to work on. Sometimes I might just turn up and I want to play. And sometimes I'll turn up and I'll be like, okay, I just want to work my A game with the experienced players. And like I said, we class ourselves as fortunate because we've got the we're in the privileged position at the moment to be able to do that when we can train because of our experience. Like we can almost pick and choose a style of training that we have. And not saying that all belt levels don't have that, but it almost becomes an easier position to have the more experience you get because you can control the tempo of certain rounds. But yeah, treating every single role like it's the world final isn't going to give you any progress. If anything, it's going to give you more holes in your game because when you get in a position that you're unfamiliar with, you're going to become unstuck. And if you keep working your A game, your B game's going to suffer, your C game's going to suffer. You're going to stagnate as well. Like the only way to learn something new is to almost put your ego on the line and get beat a few times whilst trying something new. Like, try to think of an example. Like when I first wanted to learn leg locks, like at the amount of times I lost against like a lot less experienced players, it happened like a lot. But I knew that my development in the area that I was trying to develop was improving because I was able to get the transitions easier. I was able to get into the position. I was able to enter, then re-enter all the submissions that I was wanting to. And after a dedicated time, my skill level in that area went up and I was able to move on to the next thing or transition it into my A/B game.
Yeah. I think one thing that does have a big carryover to what we're both talking about is being able to just squash your ego a little bit. And the tie into all of that is like if your ego is too high and you can't rein it in and take that opportunity to be on the receiving end of a loss to somebody that you might ordinarily beat. If you're practicing something like you're just talking about, you're always going to go through that cycle of being shit at it and then getting a little bit better the more practice you put at it. And that, what you were just talking about, is the perfect natural way of progression. If you start doing something new, of course it's not going to be your A game. It's not your A game already. It's going to be your D game. And then you get that exposure against more players, learn the little intricacies of the technique against different bodies. You get a little bit better at it. Maybe you get in like subs on the lower guys now. And the other thing as well that's good about that is, if you're going and playing your B game or C game against some of the less experienced guys, you can kind of sit there in position. I'll do this quite a little bit myself, is like just going to use leg locks, for example. Like you go in with somebody who's not necessarily as experienced in leg locks, you can get them into the position and then play that catch and release game, but spend a little bit more time there. So let them figure out what the escapes are, and like you can kind of not help them with it, but like see what they do and use that as an opportunity to kind of accelerate your learning on it as well. Rather than just like if you're going against somebody who's a lot better than you and has already got good experience at getting out of the position or knows what to expect, you might not be able to spend as much time there in the position learning because they're already out of the position before you've had an opportunity to lock it up tight and spend time in the position. We always talk about position over submission, and that's why it's good. And, as a more experienced player, you are more privileged to be able to select your training partners for those different purposes.
Oh, definitely.
And it also benefits them as well. It's not just benefiting you because they're getting exposed, the less experienced players now getting exposed to something that they might not have done. And then they can learn off you from what you're doing if you explain to them what it is that you're doing while you're doing it.
Oh, definitely. That's one thing I was going to add to it as well, is like when you are doing something like that, especially with something like leg locks, because a lot of less experienced players tend to be a bit nervy about leg locks because there's such a it's a bit of a dark cloud over the whole leg lock system because your knee's going to blow out and all that kind of stuff. Whereas if you sort of play catch and release with your leg locks and you're going against someone and you're wanting to develop that area, let them know beforehand. Say, look, I'm working on this part of my game. If we get into the position, don't worry, I'm not going to put the submission on super fast. I'm just going to get used to the position. I want to see how you react. I also want to see how I react to your reactions and try and develop a game from there. Yeah. And if I do end up getting you sort of almost caught with no escape, and I find the submission and I'm applying pressure, you're not tapping, I'm just going to let go and we'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's important to put people's minds at rest with that, isn't it? Like I'll always just say, if we get into a position like that, even if it's just in the middle of the roll, it's like, you're fine. I'm not going to do anything. Let's carry on. I'm not trying to sub you. I just want to see the position. So always position over submission. We talk about it a lot, and a lot of other people talk about it as well. But catch and release is probably one of the best ways that you can play from a learning point of view.
I think catch and release as well is great for the warm-up rounds and flow rolling. Because I've done, I'm sure you've done it as well, with multiple different styles of flow rolling where it's really, really flowy and almost unrealistic. Then you have like your sort of playful rounds where you're just trying to stretch everything out and warm the spine up, warm the hips up. Then you've got like your faster pace rounds where it's jumping around, hunting for submissions, finding a submission, letting go, transitioning on, and both is going at the same time. And then like my preferred version, like we've done this quite a bit, is where for say 2 minutes of the round, one person is actively sort of defending, reacting, and moving, and the other person is actively attacking, looking for transitions, looking for sweeps, and being the more offensive player, the other players being more defensive. And it's almost trying to find as many submissions and transitions as you can during that 2 minutes, which are against an actively defending player. And then it's a great one for just getting the heart rate up as well.
Yeah, and it's that, isn't it? It's looking for submissions, not finishes.
Yeah.
You're not actually trying to get the finish on them, and it's not an aggressive attempt on searching for it. Like you say, I like that example of what you were talking about, that faster scrambly pace. What I call that, like the Instagram scramble rounds, where it's basically trying to do all the cartwheels and double legs into backflips and all that sort of stuff. Like you're getting up on the gram. But yeah, all the different ways are good. And I think like even within a round, if it's, if me and you are doing some flow rolling, it might start off as that super slow paced kind of flowy. And then that acceleration will come up a little bit. And, if you've got a room full of training partners that you can do that with, awesome.
Oh, definitely. I think as well, there's a place for development in the flow rolling rounds, which a lot of players like miss, where like, because I'll with flow rolling, like that's where a lot of my inversion game came from, was just experimenting during flow rolling and then trying something, having a bit of success in like a really light flow roll and being like, okay, let's see if this works in a slightly more aggressive round, and then building up the pressure with that. So it's not saying there's not a place for all those other styles of rolling, like everyone's going to have the preferences, but there's also loads of room for development in the other styles of rolling.
Yeah, I mean, like what you were just talking about there, it's building muscle memory at a slower pace, isn't it? And then just increasing the intensity and trying to make the same application of technique as you go up the levels with it, the levels of intensity, until it's part of your A game and you can do it in a full scramble.
Yeah.
I think, like, to kind of stay on flow rolling for a little bit, certainly in the beginning, I know we've talked about this before, I completely misunderstood what the purpose of flow rolling was very early on. I'd like somebody would do a sweep and I'd just flop over and fall on the floor and just do really unrealistic stuff, like stuff that wasn't beneficial at all, kind of like forward roll over somebody's side control. I'm like, what am I doing? I didn't get it. Do you know what I mean? No, like I'm sure you've seen people do this and it's like you're just doing something that doesn't benefit you at all. So the best way I try and describe it to people is, as we just talked about, roll like it's a match, but don't try and sub, and just try and get as many different positions and submissions as you can. If you're working on a particular thing, like keep it within that spectrum of movements, but just try and get in and out of that position as many different times as you can. Even if you only know one thing, if you're a white belt and you know how to do a triangle from the guard, let somebody take you back, try and get out of it, do the triangle from the guard, let them pass, let them take you back. If that's all you know, that's what you got to work on.
I like it. I think as well with that, have like a sliding scale of pressure and pinch. So like you say, you look like you're rolling, but then if it's your first one, start 20%. And then as you get warmed up, just keep adding 10% each time until you're at an intensity which you're both warmed and prepared for.
Yeah, definitely. Now, flow rolling is a big one. That's a good point. What else? What else is a big limiting factor for people getting through that first 12 months? I think I'd probably go back to what we were talking about before and expand on that a little bit. And like getting beat up a little bit, it's a bit off-putting, isn't it? Like you might get these guys probably more gravitate towards MMA, to be honest. But like some people like getting beat up. Like you'll hit somebody like, oh, sorry, mate. Like I caught you a bit too hard, and they're like, no, let's go.
Yeah,
calm down.
Proper game as well. Like
it's like we're touch sparring, mate. It's calm down. But you get those people who it's martial arts at the end of the day. People are coming to it for that reason. Some people are into that sort of stuff, but for the people who might be a little bit more timid, who really need the jiu-jitsu, who aren't the psychopaths, like a bit more mellow, not used to really getting that pressure. It's tough, and maybe some of your more difficult training partners that you might be experiencing that with, who the people who are like maybe a little bit better, like only a couple of months ahead of you, but they've not switched their ego off yet, and they're trying to fucking pummel you every time that they roll because like I'm better than you. Like I've been training for 2 more months, and that should be a bit of a job over the instructor to kind of say like, that's not what we're doing. We're learning. We're not trying to smash. But I think that can be one of the biggest, most off-putting things, because like brand new white belt going with a confident blue belt or purple belt and above, like their ego's in check, and you're not trying to smash somebody and when I say confident, I don't mean competent. I mean like confident in their own ability. They're not trying to beat you up. It's like, they try to
have a point to prove.
So yeah, there's no point to prove. They're confident in their ability. You've got nothing to prove. Like those aren't the rounds that you're going to get smashed as a more timid player. So like, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, don't be put off by somebody who's being a bit of a dick on the mat. Maybe just, I don't know, would you say make a point of your instructor to it? Or it's a tough one to bring up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Like sometimes, because like I've had it like at my place where I'll sort of try and set a precedent for the type of round we're going to have, and there'll always be one or two that take it up a notch. Now, if their training partners are keen for it and game for it, I'll sort of let them get on with it. But also, sort of, the coaches, they know who to put with who. Like, you'll know who your more aggressive players are. So you'll be like, okay, this person be a bit more suited for this person because they can deal with the pressure. But
sometimes,
also,
though, it's just grab a new body, isn't it? These 20, 30 people on the mat. It's like, right, next round, grab a new body. And then you're with that guy again. It's like, fuck him. Like,
I think a lot of it, like, take the pressure off yourself for not sitting out. If you don't want to roll with somebody, you don't have to. And I know it's a bit taboo and it can be a bit daunting sometimes to turn down a roll because you turn up to class to spar and it's a bit of a, what do you mean you don't want to roll with me? Like sometimes that can happen. So maybe just get used to being like, okay, I'm going to sit out this round. You might be tired, you might not be feeling it. Maybe have a conversation with them prior, saying, look, can we just take it down a notch a little bit for this round? Can we work on this aspect of the game? Or even just if after class you're a bit like, I'm not too keen on that, speak to your instructor. Whether you just pull them aside after class or send them a message over social media or however you communicate with them, just being like, explain to them what happened. Like it could be just don't feel comfortable rolling with somebody, or it could be they might have been a bit too intense for you. And like the instructor will understand, they're not going to have a negative thought behind what you're saying because they understand. Like they've been a beginner, they've had the days where they don't want to roll with the more aggressive people. They've had the days where they want to roll with the more aggressive people. They've also been on the receiving end of the conversation of, can you tone it down for this round, please? Like they've been through almost every aspect of the journey, so they can relate to what you're saying. So if all else fails and you don't like, or even if it's your first resort, just speak to your instructor and they'll either pair you up more appropriately if they've not been doing, or they can just have a conversation with you to put your mind at ease and give you a bit of a confidence boost to get you through it.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on that is, much like anything where there's a bit of a conflict in life, if you can address it with the person directly, that's always the best.
Yeah.
But I also understand that some people don't like conflict, and that might actually be a really big step of confidence to say to that person, like, can you tone it down a bit? You're hurting me. And that can be quite off-putting. Like, I completely understand that. Like some people are just not used to that, even that really small level of conflict. The person might not even know that they did it.
Yeah.
But equally, you also always get that guy on the mats, and everybody's been with him. When I say this, you're going to laugh. It's like that guy, he gets you inside control and just wants to grind his forearm into your throat. You're like, right, okay, we're playing that game. If you don't have the ability to reverse the tables and go like, right, okay, this is what that feels like. Do you like it, or do you want to stop?
Yeah.
Some people want to stop there, and then as soon as you do it back to them, they're like, shit, that doesn't feel nice. But they've maybe never had it done to them. But some people will go back even harder and try and do it on you again next time. It's like, right, I like this. This is good. Let's go at it. So, you've got to establish early on, and if there's a conflict, try and resolve it early. I won't say if you can't do that, go and speak to your instructor. Like, if you're not confident to do that, go and speak to your instructor. Don't miss the opportunity to roll, and like, don't be like, oh, you know, I've got a bit of an injury when you've not. Like, don't sit out if you don't need to. Like, you need to be on the mats as much as possible. So,
Yeah,
if you've not got the confidence, speak to your instructor. But I would say the first best thing that you can do is either speak to the person, or maybe speak to one of your training partners and be like, "Is this normal? Does he do this to you guys? Like, what's going on here?" But I think that's a tough one, and that probably is a big barrier for some people pushing forward, because inevitably there are those people on the mats. There are those people in life. So they're going to find their way onto the mats.
No, definitely. I think, like I said, I know, like you said about like try to be on the mats as much as you can with it. But I'm the same. I'm a firm believer of getting every round in you can, regardless of who it's with. But like I said, for the people who sort of might not necessarily want that conversation, the missing a round is always an option. And then, but if you are missing that round, use it properly. So you're watching other people roll. You're also lining up your next training partner. So you're not just sitting there when the round bell goes, going, oh, who am I going to roll with? It's, okay, I want to roll with this person next. I'm going to sit near them. I'm going to watch them. And then as soon as that round ends, oh, can we get a round? Like, use the time proactively, as opposed to just sort of sitting there and then hoping that somebody grabs you. Like, still be a bit proactive, even if you don't want to put yourself out there.
You get that at an open mat, or like just a sparring class. You might have like 6 rounds lined up. Somebody will come up to you and be like, "Can we get the next round in?" It's like, "Oh, no, I'm going with Si next," and then I'm with Luke after that. You're like, the next one after that. So it's good if you've got some rounds lined up, because people want to roll with you and they want to test you out. But don't be afraid to go up to people and ask as well.
Oh yeah.
So,
like I said, it's a new friend group. It's a new social circle for you as well. So make sure that you're maximizing it and getting yourself fully immersed into it. Like, this will be another point as well for the surviving your white belt. Make friends at the gym, like, because it's going to be if you stick at it, it can be a lifelong pursuit, and it's a sport that will be with you for the rest of your life.
I go one step further than that, mate. Jiu-jitsu is a cult.
Well, I was dancing around. I didn't want to say that.
We'll go straight on it. Everybody wants all of their friends to come and do jiu-jitsu. I've told countless numbers of my friends, come do jiu-jitsu. I sound like a Jehovah's Witness knocking on the door every Sunday. Like, it may as well get to that point. Come on, learn some leg locks. I want to choke you. I want more people to choke. But it is, though, isn't it? Like, everybody who does it loves it, and they want all of the mates to come and do it.
100%.
Until you get on the mats and do it, you don't know why everybody's so much of a psychopath about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And then with one of that, like, when you do there, like I say, fully immerse yourself, like, talk to people. There's numerous different friend groups at that hive, and everyone gets on with each other, and a lot of them see each other now outside of the club, whether it's just going for a casual drink or catching up with each other, watching UFCs. Like, it becomes a social circle for you as well, and it can make your journey beyond that first year much more worthwhile, and also gets you through the hard times. Because then if you are, say, like back on the last point, if you're not as let's say you're not as confident to sort of ask someone to calm the round down, but say you're friends with a few of the members of the club, you can ask them, is it normal that they roll at this pace? And they'll almost give you that extra support if you need it. Like, say you can't talk to for whatever reason, you don't want to talk to the coach about it. You've got friends that you can confide in who will understand. And also, when you're rolling with them, they'll go to your pace because they know you better.
Yeah, and what I will say to that is I'll massage your ego there a bit, mate. That's a culture that's developed by the coaches or the guy who owns the gym. So that always filters down from the top. You know, to use you as an example, you provide a welcoming platform for people coming in. You try and get people to mix and intermingle with the more experienced guys, you know, having those new guys coming in. And, you know, that just creates an environment where you can be more open and make friends. Most people who are training jiu-jitsu aren't training to go and try and win the ADCC World Championships. You're doing it as like a bit of a hobby. You might be wanting to learn a skill while you do it. But most of your time spent on the mats, you know, you're going to be having a laugh, having a chat, learning something good while you do it, learning something that's going to be useful, not just for the practical application of jiu-jitsu, but I think the way that it changes your outlook on things. It has a massive carryover into the way that you do your job, the way that you interact with friends and family, the way that you interact with people you don't know. Like, you know, if you're dealing with people in a supermarket and somebody's pissing you off, like, it's a good way of learning how to control the way that you put yourself across in the outside world. I think that the applications of jiu-jitsu are way beyond what the actual techniques you learn are. And one of the biggest points on that, to like what you were just saying, is the friendship groups that you make.
100%.
You know, you might see the same people 4 or 5 times a week, 2 hours a day. You spend more time with them than you might do with most of your relatives.
It's pretty true, though, to be fair.
Yeah. And, you know, if you can create an environment where you want to go there, you're more likely to learn quickly because you want to be there every night. It's not like, oh, I've got to go to jiu-jitsu. I don't think anybody goes, oh, I've got to go to jiu-jitsu tonight. It's like,
no,
let's go to jiu-jitsu.
It's right. When can I go training?
When can I go to jiu-jitsu? So if you can't tell, I love jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's not been evident there, mate.
No.
But so to round this up, then we'll give our three key takeaways each for sort of getting through that first year and making the most of the progress.
Soundbite.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Go on. Go for it, mate.
Have you got 3 in mind, or do you want
to? Yeah, make friends. Try and suppress your ego and be open to new information.
I like it. I'll try and get 3 different ones, because they're like 2. I think two of the 3 out there were my ones that I was going to say as well. First one will be take notes. So try take 1 key lesson away from each class and make a note of it. The next one is listen. So just pay attention in class. Try to listen out for the key details and listen to your training partners when they're giving you suggestions, and also ask questions. So there's no such thing as a daft question. So like, if you don't understand something, ask about it to create understanding for it.
Yep. And the third one?
Oh, that was a 3 there.
Oh, that was the third one.
Take notes, listen, and ask questions.
Good. I like it. No, and all importantly to that as well is, like, you know, the journey from white belt to blue belt might seem like a long time. We talked about this before, and we kind of we're talking about whether we talk about it or not on this podcast. But I think just in a quick summary to that is, like, you know, it's a lifelong journey. A lot of people get to blue belt and, you know, they look at the journey that they've come along to get to there. And if they're focused on getting to purple belt next, they might look at that next bit and be like, man, that's such a long journey away. I don't know whether I can stick with it. You know, if you come into it for that reason, you're probably not doing the sport for the right reason. Look at it from all the points of view that we were just talking about. That's the benefits that you're getting out of it, not a coloured piece of cloth that you can tie around your waist. That if you're coming at it from that point of view, you're wrong. Take everything
it's
out.
nice having the belts, and it's a nice sign of acknowledgement, sign of achievement. But like you said, it shouldn't be the main focus for your training. If anything, it will probably make the promotions feel further apart if you're training just to get a promotion.
And I think that's why a lot of people quit.
Yeah.
At blue belt, there's a lot of people that quit at blue belt, so I don't be one of them. Like, if don't come into this learning experience with the wrong frame of mind. Like, there's a lot to take out of it. So
yeah,
stick with it. Do it for the right reasons.
No, definitely. And if there's anything you took away from this, put in the comments your key takeaway from this podcast, especially if you're a white belt or wanted to start the sport when we come out of this lockdown. Drop them below in the comments before. Drop us a message. Let us know your thoughts. Like I say, we're always up for hearing what you think of what we're putting out there. And let us know what techniques you want to see when we can record together again. We've got a few lined up, but if you've got any preference, let's get them down there.
Yeah. So like I was saying, his top 3 tips were listen and make notes. We'll be impressed if anybody makes full notes on that and just doesn't come in with what we were talking about at the beginning about Sambo football. If we just hear all the notes for when are you starting the Sambo football tournament and how do I sign up? We know.
If we get a load of those questions, we'll get it set up.
I'm for it, mate. I'm happy to go to Power League 5-a-side and play some Sambo football right now. Let's go.
Brilliant.
And on that note, go and check out the Grapplers Academy on all the social media platforms. Let us know how soon and when you want to see this Sambo football come into place. That could be the name for it. If you've got a better name for it, leave it in the comments and let us know on the internet.
And if you want Ashton Kutcher to referee the matches, let us know and we'll try and arrange it.
We got all the way through a goddamn episode. God damn it. Right, we're done. Cut him off.
We got at the Bonafide PT, at Coach by Sai, with the Grapplers Academy. We'll see you next week.